Is Walmart cheaper than Harbor Freight? So the idea here is if you're looking to put together a very basic, minimalist, ultra budget set of tools for somebody living in an apartment, and well, you're looking to spend the least amount of money, can you do better at Walmart compared to Harbor Freight? So we're going to compare this set of tools that I got at Walmart versus some other ones that I got at Harbor Freight and various other places. And we're going to keep a score. Who scores points, Walmart versus Harbor Freight? So to start off, we're going to use our basic 12-foot tape measure. This is from Walmart, costs $2.48. 12 feet, it's 5/8 of an inch wide, and it has a pretty good standoff length. At 4 feet, we're still holding. 5 feet. Okay, so it broke over at 5 feet, or just under 5 feet. Now let's compare it to the Harbor Freight Pittsburgh one. This one costs only $2, but it's only half an inch wide, and let's see, 3 feet we're still holding. 4 feet, well, broke under 4 feet. So in this case, for about a 50 cents extra, you get, I would say, a more usable tape measure compared to the Harbor Freight one. So I'm going to give a point to Walmart for the tape measure. Next up is our basic 6-in-1 screwdriver. This one costs $3.48 at Walmart. It has a triangular profile on the handle. The handle is smooth with some rubber surfaces. So overall, you can get a pretty good grip on this, but there's no annoying texture here that's going to give you any hot spots. And I mean, all the bits hold pretty well, nothing falls out. So for the money, I think this is pretty good. Well, what does Harbor Freight have? Well, Harbor Freight has the cheap one for $2.29, and I honestly don't like that handle. Those little bumps with the textures, they're just asking to start falling off over time, and I don't know what they were thinking in design of it, but I personally prefer this one. But since this one costs more than $1 extra over the Harbor Freight one, I'm going to say nobody gets a point. Next up is your basic utility knife. This is an 18mm wide snap blade knife from Walmart. It costs $2.34. It's got a metal frame inside, so it's not going to crack open on you. And Harbor Freight has an almost identical one for $2.29. Except Harbor Freight claims it has extra blades inside, which this one doesn't. So I don't have the Harbor Freight one to really tell for sure, but I'm going to give the point to Harbor Freight simply because the extra blades included. But overall, it's basically the same knife for basically the same price. So I'll give a point to Harbor Freight for the utility knife. Next up, we got pliers. So Walmart has these unbranded pliers available without packages that you can just look over and pick out, you know, the best one with the least amount of defects. So we got long nose pliers. You also got your basic 6-inch cutters, and we have your basic 6-inch slip joint pliers. Now Harbor Freight has a whole set of pliers for 15 bucks, but the problem with those is that, well, they're inside a package. So the quality in those can be hit and miss, and you can't really inspect them inside the package and pick out the best ones. And the second problem is that it's 15 bucks for a whole bunch of pliers. Whereas with these, well, the long nose pliers are $3.38. The cutters are $2.98, and the slip joints are $2.47. So really, you only need these three basic ones, and you spend less money this way. But let's look at the details. So I decided to go with these 6-inch ones as a good overall size compared to, well, compared to Harbor Freight, they have these 8-inch ones outside the package that you can also examine and pick out the ones with the least amount of defects. But trying to do precision work with 8-inch ones is, well, it's an exercise in frustration. So I think a 6-inch one is a better overall size. If you're going to go with the 8-inch, you might also want to invest in a pair of mini pliers for the small precision task. The other problem is you see these angles at the tips. Well, I ground those myself because originally these tips were ridiculously thick for a long nose pair of pliers. So these at Harbor Freight cost about $4 or $3.99 to be exact. Whereas compared these ones from Walmart, you can see the tips. You can see the tips are a lot thinner, and they open pretty smooth. There's no wobble. So I'm going to give the point to Walmart for long nose pliers simply because they're better overall size and a better profile for the kind of precision work that you do with long nose pliers. All right. Next up, cutters. So these cutters cost $2.98 at Walmart, and Harbor Freight actually sells similar cutters outside of packaging, also 6 inches in size, for $4 or $3.99. So they're basically the same tool. Harbor Freight has them spring loaded. I took the spring out because I prefer it that way. But again, in this case, you can pick out the version with the least amount of defects, and this one, the jaws align pretty well. There's no wobble. Same thing with this. So again, I'm going to give the point to Walmart simply because they're about $1 cheaper for the same tool. And then next up we have the slip joint pliers. These cost $2.47 at Walmart. Harbor Freight only has the 8-inch ones available outside of packaging that you can look over. And again, the quality in those is really hit and miss. I've been through a bunch of different stores, looked through a bunch of different slip joint pliers at Harbor Freight, and they all look like they're put together by blind people. Either the jaws are thicker, one thicker than the other. The jaws are one in front of the other. And then you open it and the other jaw becomes longer than the other. So with these, again, these are available at Walmart without packaging. So I picked out a pair that was the most normal with the least amount of defects. And I mean, they work pretty well. They're more or less evenly aligned. The jaws are more or less even. And I mean, there's not a lot of slop between the jaws. So in this case, Walmart, again, scores a point compared to Harbor Freight. And then next up, we have your basic hammer. So this 7-ounce claw hammer costs $3.88 at Walmart. So this is a pretty good overall size. For an apartment, you don't really need a bigger hammer than this, like a full-blown 16-ounce. So this is pretty much all you need for apartment living, and it's a nice, still standard length hammer, not one of those stubby ones. Well, what does Harbor Freight have? Well, Harbor Freight has a stubby 8-ounce hammer for like $4, which is good to have when you need a stubby, but I would not want a stubby hammer as my only hammer all the time. And then you can also step up to full-blown 16-ounce claw hammer, which is nice to have if you're a homeowner. But for an apartment living, I would say it's just too big, too bulky, too heavy. So this is a much better fit for somebody living in an apartment. And unfortunately, Harbor Freight has no answer to this. They do not. They do not have a similar hammer to this. So here, Walmart definitely scores a point with the hammer. Next up, you have your basic 6-inch adjustable wrench. So this one costs $7.88 at Walmart, which, to be honest, is more than I wanted to spend, but it was the only 6-inch one available or the cheapest one available. It was inside a package, so I couldn't really look it over and tell which one was the best out of all of those, but this one has your typical amount of slop and jiggle as any other cheap adjustable wrench. And Harbor Freight has a similar size adjustable wrench for $5, and it's available without packaging, so you can really look them over and pick out the one with the least defects. So in this case, I would say Harbor Freight gets a point for the adjustable wrench. And really, I think $7.88 is a little too much for what this is. Next up, we have your basic work light. So this is a 160 lumen light, runs on 3 AAA batteries, which come included with the light. So this sells at Walmart for $4.97. It has your basic on and off, has a magnet in the clip. The clip also rotates, and it has a magnet at the tail. So let's demonstrate. It has a magnet like this, has a magnet like this, so it's pretty nice. And I like the fact that it's a simple on and off operation. There's no different modes to scroll through every time you want to turn it on and off, so this is good. Harbor Freight has a version similar to this, but it's bigger. It runs on AA batteries, and it puts out about 300 lumens. So it's nice to have a bigger, brighter light, but that one does not have a clip that rotates or a magnet on a clip, and it has multiple modes. So depending what you're doing, the modes can get in a way, as opposed to simple on and off like this. So in this case, I'm going to call it a draw. You might prefer one light over the other, but I personally think this is pretty good for your basic light, and it's cheaper than what's at Harbor Freight. And then lastly, we've come to the bag. Let me check that there's nothing inside. This bag here costs $6.88 at Walmart, whereas this Voyager basic 12-inch tool bag costs $8 at Harbor Freight. So this one has, the Walmart version has a thicker material all around, so I would say it has better construction. The Walmart one, I mean the Harbor Freight one, it's already starting to tear right here, and I've only had this bag for like 6 months. So I would say the Walmart has a better build quality, but it has less pockets, only 3 pockets in the front and no pockets inside, whereas the Harbor Freight bag has a whole bunch of pockets that you can use. So in this case, I'm going to call it a draw. Depending on your use case, you might prefer one bag over the other. So in the end, the result is Walmart gets 5 points, Harbor Freight gets 2 points. So there you go. Harbor Freight is not always the best choice when it comes to budget tools, and sometimes you might get a better deal shopping at Walmart. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.